Thrilled to welcome Symphony 3 to the Local Government News Roundup family. If you're a local council, you know how challenging it can be to manage data across all your different systems. That's where Symphony 3 comes in. They've developed Smart Glue, a platform that integrates over 55 council systems, automating data flow without the need for manual work. It turns confusion into simplicity. With Smart Glue, councils save time, reduce errors and empower staff to focus on what really matters. Their clients see a real difference, up to 20% boost in productivity, with savings of over $30,000 per integration every year. Symphony 3 helps councils work smarter, faster and more efficiently, all while better supporting the communities they serve. Council meeting adjourned as tensions boil over. Melbourne's new tougher stance on graffiti, a call for state government help on tree vandalism, and the cost of vandalism escalates for a Tasmanian council. Protests directed at Queensland councils. A new CEO announced for Redland. A South Australian council hands back 2 iconic landmarks to the state, and fierce opposition to an election promise in Western Australia. All of that and more is just ahead. It's the Local Government News Roundup. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. Also today, Jim McGee OAM drops by to make a call for a probe of the conduct of last year's Victorian local government elections. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Heading this edition of the Roundup, dramatic scenes at the city of Casey this week during the council's first fully public council meeting since emerging from administration. More than 500 residents packed the council chambers, with tensions boiling over during discussions about private land use permits and vehicle storage regulations. Mayor Stephen Cooman, who had initially welcomed the large turnout as a positive sign for local democracy, was forced to adjourn the meeting after repeated disruptions. In a statement following the incident, the Mayor expressed his disappointment. He said, "The behaviour displayed at the council meeting is not welcome and will not be tolerated. We had residents attending in good faith, expecting to hear responses to their questions, but unfortunately they, along with our staff and councillors, were subjected to threatening behaviour." Victoria Police were called to the meeting at around 6:15pm, eventually escorting councillors from the building. The meeting was the first to be held outside business hours to accommodate more ratepayers. The council has yet to announce when the adjourned meeting will reconvene. See our show notes for links to reporting on the meeting from the Dandenong Star-Journal, The Age, Sky News and the official statement from Mayor Stephen Cooman. Melbourne City Council is taking a tougher stance on graffiti and vandalism with a new You Spray You Pay initiative. Lord Mayor Nick Rees has announced that offenders will face stricter consequences, including court-ordered compensation for clean-up costs. The council will now submit victim impact statements in court proceedings, emphasising that graffiti is not a victimless crime. They're also pushing for legislative changes that would require offenders to personally clean up their vandalism, even if they live outside the municipality. The City of Melbourne is also looking to expand its anti-graffiti efforts through partnerships with neighbouring councils. Kingston Council is urging Rossdale Golf Course to allow environmental experts onto their property after being denied access this week. Mayor Georgina Oxley says the assessment is critical before the upcoming bird migration season. The club had previously permitted an arborist on site, but is now questioning the council's legal authority to conduct the audit. The council says it remains open to working with the club to complete the essential environmental assessment. A Victorian parliamentary inquiry is underway to examine and follow up on 2 key Victorian Auditor-General reports regarding fraud and corruption in local government. The inquiry will review findings from the 2019 report on general fraud and corruption control in local government, examine a 2022 report focusing specifically on fraud control over local government grants, and it will assess what actions Victorian integrity and government agencies have taken to address the issues and recommendations raised in both audits. The Public Accounts and Estimates Committee is conducting the inquiry and must report its findings by the 20th of November. Written submissions are due by the 7th of March. A public hearing has been scheduled for the 31st of March. There's been a call for a probe by the Victorian Auditor-General into the conduct of last year's Victorian Council elections, with claims that the move to single-member wards has doubled the cost of democracy for some councils. Jim McGee is a former mayor at Glen Ira Council and still taking a very keen interest in local government issues. Jim, you're calling for an Auditor-General audit of last year's council elections. Why?
Chris, I think it's really important, given the situation councils are in at the moment, where finances are, so tight, that we've now gone to single-member wards. Now, single-member wards, just for my own council, City of Glen Ira, added an additional $500,000 to the cost of the elections, going from 3 wards of 3 councillors to single-member wards. It's quite expensive. I want to know, 1, why is it so expensive? 2, why did it take so long to declare the results? And what value do we get for our money? We all talk about openness, transparency, efficiency. I don't see a lot of that here, and I see a change to single-member wards as a cost to council.
Few people have talked about the time it took to get the results through. That's one issue. Single-member wards are individual elections, whereas the example you've given with Glen Ira, you might have had 3 elections, you've had 9 elections. Therefore, the cost goes up in proportion to that. Perhaps a lot of people didn't think about that leading into last year's election cycle.
I think it's 2, maybe. Yeah, I think it was 2 local government ministers ago that actually decided for the single-member wards.
It was Adam Somyurek, so we're going back to Somyurek, yes.
I don't see that it's brought any value whatsoever to the local government sector, except it's added to my council another $500,000, and that's $500,000 we could use for community services.
I guess time is of the essence, given that the way the cycle goes. 4 years is not a long time, so you'd want to see the Auditor-General, if they take this up, move on this pretty quickly, wouldn't you?
Well, look, I certainly would, and I'll certainly be encouraging the new minister to have a look at what benefit has the state got out of single-member wards. Why should councils have to incur this extra cost when the old system worked absolutely perfectly well? I never saw a problem with it, but we've changed and it's had a huge expense. Now, we're also calling for, the cost shifting to be analysed. We've seen the Auditor-General now start looking at that. We've seen the Upper House inquiry come in with their recommendations. I think over the next 4 years, here's the opportunity. We've got a new minister who is an ex-councillor. I actually served with Nick back in the early days, and Nick is a really decent, smart person who really does know and understand local government, and I think he will want to make the appropriate reforms to help us out. So let's put this in front of him, but let the Auditor-General do that as the independent body who can look at it. But I also understand the Auditor-General has got a very busy agenda on at the moment. And
I was going to make that point. It's been in the news, the look at those major projects that are being delivered by the state government, the new parliamentary inquiry that's looking at previous Auditor-General reports into fraud and corruption measures in local government. Sure. The Auditor-General's a flavour of the moment right now. Do you think that they'll take this request seriously?
Look, I think it'll go in the bucket of requests, and hopefully it'll filter its way through to the top within a year or so. But more importantly, we nut this out before the next election. And we actually see, well, why did it cost so much? Why did it take so long? And I don't see any openness and transparency in that program, because all we heard was it just takes that long. Yeah. And it costs this much.
Jim, are you hoping current mayors might get behind your call?
Oh, look, you would hope so, because all mayors have the same agenda. Looking after their council, their ratepayers, and, cost efficiencies where they can find them. Now, I don't suspect that the government will turn around and say, oh, look at that, we've made a big mistake. Let's go back to, 3 members, 3 wards. But they may look at it and say, look, we can actually modify this, tweak this. But more importantly, let them talk to the 79 CEOs and say, how did the last election affect your council, and what can we do better in the future?
Always good to talk, Jim. Thanks for keeping these issues front and centre. And congratulations. I don't think we've spoken to you since you were awarded your OAM. Well deserved.
Well, yes, that was a bigger surprise to me than it was obviously to others. But yeah, look, chuffed to have got that, and I don't quite know what to do with it, but
Well, I see you've put it on your email signature.
I
That's
have.
a start.
That was just for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Good to chat. And let us know if you get a response to this request.
All the best, will do. Thank you.
More news in brief. East Gippsland Shire Council is strongly opposing a new state government emergency services levy that will significantly increase costs for property owners from July 2025, with primary producers facing a 189% increase in the variable rate component. The council, led by Mayor John White, is calling for the levy to be scrapped or at least administered by the state. At Bayside, Matthew Cripps has been appointed as acting CEO, set to take the helm from March 28. Mr Cripps, who currently serves as the Director of City Planning and Amenity, will step into the role as outgoing CEO Mick Cummins steps down. And Brimbank Council is funding several community-led events and activities, recognising the 50-year anniversary of the Vietnamese community's settlement in Australia. The city prides itself as home to one of the largest Vietnamese communities in the country. This is the Local Government News Roundup for Friday the 21st of February, brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, which in the upcoming week of celebrating International Women's Day is launching the results of the first ever local government councillor census. And you can hear first-hand perspectives and lived experiences from past and present councillors when the results of the census are launched. A special event is being held on Tuesday the 4th of March from 11am at the Lyceum Club in Melbourne, and it will explore how the data is driving work in the gender equality space, with subject matter experts talking about what's next in the push to achieve equal gender representation across the sector. Find out more or book your place by heading to the VLGA website, vlga.org.au/events. The Local Government News Roundup is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Now, more of what's happening across the local government sector in Australia. Investigations have concluded without charges after one of the largest acts of tree vandalism in Sydney's North Shore history. 256 trees were destroyed in Castle Cove's HD Robb Reserve, including an iconic 80-year-old Sydney Angophora standing 21 metres tall. Willoughby City Council Mayor Tanya Taylor has expressed frustration at the outcome, calling for urgent state government intervention to address what she describes as inadequate enforcement tools for combating tree vandalism. The Mayor has met with key state ministers and local representatives, presenting recommendations to strengthen councils' ability to prosecute such cases. It comes as Sydney's North Shore grapples with an increasing number of tree vandalism incidents. Northern Beaches Council has moved to set the record straight after recent media reports following its decision to seek a substantial rate variation. The council's chief financial officer says claims about excessive cash reserves don't tell the full story, explaining that the reported $43 million in unrestricted funds is primarily needed to maintain essential services during the critical period before rates are collected. In a detailed response, council officials have highlighted that over $30 million is required just to keep basic services running in the first 2 months of each financial year. The council maintains that using existing reserves would be a short-term fix that could expose ratepayers to unnecessary risk and wouldn't address long-term financial sustainability challenges. It's also addressed concerns about staffing levels, revealing that full-time equivalent positions have actually decreased from 1,315 to 1,287 since the council amalgamation. Shoalhaven City Council has announced it will cease operating its family daycare service due to growing financial pressures. The service, which has been running since 1980, currently faces an annual deficit of $96,000. And Mayor Patricia White says the council will assist the service's 23 active educators to transition to new providers. 2 not-for-profit organisations have already expressed interest in taking on the educators. The New South Wales Housing Delivery Authority has assessed its first batch of 28 housing proposals out of over 160 expressions of interest, with 11 being declared state significant projects that will bypass council assessment. Local Government New South Wales, while critical of the HDA's function, is now calling for collaboration between the state government and councils to ensure proper infrastructure and community amenity considerations in the development process. Albury City Council has secured $5 million in federal government funding, matched with $5.7 million of council funds, to strengthen the runway at Albury Airport. The project will take approximately 2 years to complete and will enable larger aircraft to land. Kempsey Shire has moved to address its financial challenges with a proposed staged rate increase. During a marathon 3-hour discussion at their latest meeting, councillors voted to split a previously approved 15% rate variation across 2 years. Ratepayers would see a 7.5% increase in the coming year, followed by a potential 11.5% rise in the following year. And the New South Wales Government has launched a new round of social cohesion grants, offering local councils up to $150,000 each from a $500,000 pool to combat hate and strengthen community connections. Grant applications are open until the 28th of March. And making news in the press, Lismore City Council has voted to significantly reduce public participation in its meetings. According to the Daily Telegraph, the council has decided to move public access sessions to 9 a.m. before the formal meeting begins and has halved the number of allowed speakers on any given issue. And Singleton Council is seeking state and federal support to address issues caused by flying foxes roosting in Burdekin Park and nearby streets. Radio 2HD reported that the flying foxes are creating noise and sanitation problems for local residents and businesses. It's a big end-of-week edition of the Roundup with lots to tell you about. Let's head into Queensland. Redland City Council has this week named Louise Roussan as its new Chief Executive Officer. Ms Roussan, who's been serving as acting CEO since September last year, brings nearly 15 years of executive experience within the council to the role. Mayor Jos Mitchell said Ms Roussan's appointment will be crucial in developing new corporate and city plans for the region. The appointment follows a national recruitment search, with the final decision confirmed at a general meeting this week. Protesters have gathered outside Redland City Council chambers to voice their opposition to a controversial new portfolio structure. The plan was approved in a 7-4 vote and has sparked accusations that Mayor Jos Mitchell is being deliberately sidelined by her own council, according to reporting from the Courier Mail. Around 60 residents turned out to protest the changes, which will see 8 councillors taking on portfolio roles. The final structure is set to be formalised next month. Tensions continue to simmer over a controversial council rate hike on the Gold Coast. 9 News reported that around 200 residents took to the streets this week to protest against the so-called view tax, which has seen some apartment owners hit with rate increases of up to 50%. Mayor Tom Tate is standing firm, arguing the adjustments are about ensuring those with higher value properties pay their fair share, and he's ruled out any reversal of the decision. However, he has promised future rate rises will be kept in line with inflation. Protesters aren't backing down, and they have another demonstration planned for next month. Meanwhile, ABC News reported that Gold Coast City Council has delayed a crucial decision on introducing waste management fees, as industry experts warn of an impending landfill train wreck. With local tips nearly full and only 10 years of capacity remaining, the council is facing a $138 million budget shortfall over the next 5 years. The Gold Coast remains the only council in southeast Queensland without gate fees at waste facilities. In Townsville, the City Council has unanimously approved new policies to address what officials describe as unreasonable and vexatious complaints. The Townsville Bulletin has reported that the move comes amid ongoing social media tensions involving suspended Mayor Troy Thompson. The council says the changes will help manage a small but resource-intensive group of complainants, while maintaining services for the majority of ratepayers who engage reasonably with the council. Briefly, in other news, Snowy Monaro Regional Council has commenced the search for a new permanent CEO to replace interim CEO Stephen Dunshay, whose contract ends in June. Applications open until March the 5th, with recruitment being managed by MacArthur. Goulburn Mulwaree Council has extended the appointment of Marina Hoddins, Director of Utilities, as acting CEO, effective this week until a permanent general manager is appointed. Cairns Regional Council and CQ University have signed a new 4-year Memorandum of Understanding, building upon a previous 2020 agreement that enabled various community-focused initiatives. Northern Beaches Council has announced the closure of its vacation care services after the autumn 2025 school holiday program due to declining attendance and financial losses. And West Arnhem Regional Council has appointed Tamar Nawirij as its newest elected member for the Gunbalanya ward. Her official swearing-in ceremony took place during an ordinary council meeting earlier this week. More on vandalism and its impact on local governments. The increasing cost is hitting home in Tasmania's Northern Midlands municipality. The council has had to fund a repair bill of nearly $30,000 this financial year, with public toilets being a major target. January alone saw damage bills exceeding $5,000 across multiple towns. Pulse Tasmania reported that local police are now working with the council to identify suspects through surveillance footage. Kangaroo Island has marked a significant milestone this week with the arrival of QantasLink's first Dash 8 Q400 aircraft at Kingscote Airport. The larger 74-seat aircraft is set to boost capacity between Adelaide and the island by 48%. Mayor Michael Pengilly said the development will provide a significant boost to local tourism and improve access for residents. The future of two iconic South Australian jetties is in doubt after Tumby Bay Council announced it will hand back control of the local landmarks to the state government. The council says it simply cannot afford the $13.4 million price tag to maintain the Tumby Bay and Port Neal jetties over the next 15 years, even with $2.4 million in state funding on the table. Mayor Jeff Churchett said the decision follows strong community opposition to proposed rate hikes that would have been needed to keep the structures in local hands. Whyalla City Council is seeking community input on a proposed citywide alcohol ban in public spaces. The move comes in response to growing concerns about alcohol-related antisocial behaviour in the area. Mayor Phil Stone acknowledges there's no quick fix to the issue, emphasising that the proposed dry zone is just one part of a broader solution requiring multi-agency cooperation. And some Western Australian Council news for you. WA Labor's $217 million election promise to build a motorsport circuit at Perth's Burswood Park has sparked fierce opposition from local officials and residents, according to reporting from ABC News. The Town of Victoria Park Council has voted overwhelmingly to oppose the development, with Mayor Karen Vernon saying the community was shocked by the announcement, which came without any prior consultation. The proposed development would include a street circuit for supercars, a 20,000-seat music bowl and a function centre. The council says it supports the entertainment facilities, but is particularly concerned about the impact of the motorsport track on local parklands and wildlife. A changing of the guard at the city of Canning, where Councillor Mark Bain has been elected as the new deputy mayor after a three-way contest at Tuesday night's council meeting. The appointment follows the resignation of Amanda Spencer-Teo, who's stepping down after 5 years to focus on her campaign for the state seat of Riverton at the upcoming state election. Your Local Examiner reported that the council is seeking approval to keep Spencer-Teo's seat vacant until the October local government elections. Now for our quick trip around the globe with some local government happenings of interest. In the UK, a village in Surrey has made headlines after two massive sinkholes appeared following a water main burst. You might have seen the pictures on news bulletins. The larger of the two holes in Godstone has reached 65 feet in length, forcing the evacuation of approximately 30 homes in the area. Surrey County Council has confirmed to the BBC that the situation has stabilised, with the holes no longer expanding. Engineers are currently conducting borehole testing to assess the underground conditions, though repairs are expected to take several months. A Conservative councillor in Pendle, who was elected in May 2023, has been found to owe £3,835 in unpaid council tax over 3 years. It's made Tim Ormerod unable to vote on the authority's budget, according to BBC News. Liberal Democrat group leader David Whipp has called for his immediate resignation, citing his minimal meeting attendance and the scandal of unpaid taxes. East Lothian Council has become Scotland's first local authority to implement a 10% council tax increase. Council leader Norman Hampshire said it's necessary for essential services and protecting vulnerable residents. For a typical property, the increase amounts to £2.76 per week or £11.96 monthly. The council has also approved a 6.5% increase for council tenants from the coming financial year and to invest an additional £1 million per year for 5 years for modernisation of existing council homes. In the US, President Donald Trump has called for a federal takeover of Washington, D.C., citing concerns over crime and homelessness, according to Reuters news agency. His call comes as Republican lawmakers push legislation to eliminate D.C.'s local government, including its elected mayor and city council. The controversial move would place the capital's 700,000 residents under direct congressional control. Mayor Muriel Bowser continues to advocate for D.C. statehood instead. The peaceful pop of tennis balls has given way to what some residents are calling an auditory assault in a Boise, Idaho neighbourhood. 2 homeowners near Willow Lane Park have filed a lawsuit against the city over the conversion of tennis courts to pickleball facilities, claiming the distinctive sharp crack of pickleball play has made their property unlivable. The Oregonian reported that the homeowners are seeking $1.6 million in damages and want the courts shut down. While the city has attempted to address concerns with sound barriers and restricted playing days, the plaintiffs say the measures haven't solved the problem. The rural municipalities of Saskatchewan and Canada are urging the provincial government to fund removal of abandoned buildings across the province. The derelict structures pose safety risks and burden rural municipalities with costly clean-up requirements. Association of Rural Municipalities President Bill Huber said the buildings threaten community development, with municipalities struggling to afford removal under current environmental regulations. And finally to Gore in New Zealand, where cutting-edge technology is transforming the way urban forests are monitored. One News has reported that New Zealand company TreeTech has partnered with Singapore's Greenhill to introduce what's being dubbed as an MRI scanner for trees, using a combination of 4 million lasers and 6 cameras mounted on a vehicle travelling at precisely 39 kilometres per hour. The system can scan up to 8,000 trees in a single day. The technology creates a 360-degree view of trees and can assess their health and vulnerabilities with unprecedented accuracy. Gore is the first New Zealand city to use the technology, which has already been successfully deployed in major cities worldwide, including Marseille, Prague and Singapore. And that's been a bumper end of the week edition for the Local Government News Roundup, number 430, recorded on the 21st of February 2025, and brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association with support from Symphony 3. If you have comments, feedback or story ideas, you can send us an email at lgweeklynews@gmail.com. More information on this episode, including story links, at lgnewsroundup.com. Thank you to those of you who help make the podcast possible by supporting us through a monthly subscription. Support starts at $3 per month. That's less than $5 Australian, and you can cancel your subscription at any time. Your support is greatly appreciated. Details on the website or in your podcast player. The Local Government News Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until our next edition on Monday, I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for listening, and bye for now. A councillor's commitment to community doesn't stop when their time as an elected representative ends. In recognition of this and to strengthen its ongoing support for former councillors, The VLGA has launched an alumni program open to anyone who has held an elected position in local government. By becoming a VLGA alumnus, former councillors will have access to VLGA programs and special alumni networking events, as well as the opportunity to participate in forums and share key learnings and insights to inform sector advocacy. You'll be kept up to date on local government news and be able to participate in VLGA events and professional development opportunities at a special VLGA alumni member rate. To find out more about this exciting opportunity, visit www.vlga.org.au.